Hello and welcome. Today I am doing a partial embossing technique using stamps and dies from Pretty Pink Posh. This is the Hummingbirds Think set, and I am going to show you how I achieve this look on the card. So here I'm just taking card panels. I cut one piece of 80-pound Nina Solar White into 4 panels. These are 5.5 by 4.25. And I am just starting out by taking a T-ruler. And so what I'm showing you at the beginning of this is actually a mess up. This is a boo-boo, but I wanted to show it so that you could see maybe a way not to do this. So I originally thought I would mask off an area, just a guide for me, with painter's tape. So basically what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to take an embossing folder and leave a strip in the middle unembossed for the sentiment. So I thought, perfect, I will use some painter's tape and make that work. So this is the Taylor Expression Rosy Posy embossing folder, and I thought this one would be great because it has flowers and I'm using hummingbirds, and it would kind of give that look. The other great thing about this embossing folder is that there is a natural point at the end of the folder where you can see that there's a cutoff, so it's really easy for me to use. So I went ahead, brought out my Big Shot, put it right on top of my project. It takes me a minute, I find it, and I opened it up to the next tab like I would. This is how I use embossing folders with my machine. And so I ran it through on both sides, and you'll see here in a second. I did not realize, again, learning opportunity here, that if you put painter's tape through the machine and add that pressure, it becomes really difficult to remove the tape. And so here you'll see me, I'm struggling, and I realized right here, it's not happening for me. This is a boo-boo. And I feel the paper rip, and I'm like, forget it. So this was attempt number 1. And I thought that this was the easy way to do this. And the way I end up doing it is really, truly the easy way to do it. And I'm even here peeling the tape back on itself, which is what everybody says to do. I really think it's that added pressure running it through the machine. So starting over, fresh sheet. I am using my T-ruler to just mark off an area with my pencil and mark off lines. Honestly, this was far easier than fiddling with the tape and trying to make it work. This really was the way to go and made it tons easier. So I just measured off. It was a little bit more than the width of the ruler. And here in a second, you'll see I bring over the stamp set and just make sure that the sentiment is going to fit in that area. Because obviously I'm masking this part off, leaving it out so that I can stamp it eventually. And I'm just using that many thanks sentiment from this stamp set. So I realize that's enough space and it's going to work. So I once again get out that same embossing folder and run it through my machine. I really like this embossing folder. It leaves really deep impressions, which I like. I really am liking the look of kind of that plain white background on a card. And so this achieves that look, but a little bit differently. So I realized that in scooting it in, I've kind of messed up where the line is, but that's okay. So on top of my Big Shot machine, you probably see a lot of little white squares. That is Post-it tape that I've already used once, but it's still good. So I'll use a little piece of Post-it tape a couple times before I get rid of it. So I just took a piece off and used it to hold the embossing folder in place. So now I've run it through both sides. And you'll see here in a second what that looks like. I think it's really quite beautiful, and I was really pleased with how this came out. You can definitely see the flowers, definitely see the white part in the middle. And so I just take an eraser and erase those. By the way, throughout the video, I'm sorry about the glare on shiny surfaces. There's just no way I can get around that unless you want to watch a dark video. I pretty much film videos at night after work. And so it's always going to be dark, so I have to use my overhead lighting. So there's a little bit of a glare. So I am taking out my Misty, again, glare. And I am going to grab, this is a spare sheet of 80 pounds Nina Solar White. It was just a sheet that was like 5.5 by 8, kind of random. So I can't, I can't use it for card fronts anymore because I couldn't make 2 card fronts out of it, I guess I should say. So I am taking all 3 of those hummingbird stamps, taking them off the sheet, sticking them down, and then I am going to use the Lawn Fawn Jet Black ink. I like using this ink for Copic coloring, and I also like using it for watercoloring because it is both alcohol marker friendly and can be used with water. So I really like that about this ink, and so I reach for it often. This is what I'm usually reaching for. So I am going to go ahead and stamp those down, and I pretty much always stamp everything twice, which is why I use the Misty. You definitely do not have to use the Misty. You could use acrylic blocks for this. I just often like to stamp everything twice, just, because I'm always going to mess up. There's just no way I'm not. And as Kathy Zilski says, get a frickin' Misty. These things are amazing. They're very pricey, but if you stamp a lot, it is 100% worth it. So here is me stamping them twice. And from here, I actually go on and I re-stamp these images 2 more times, giving me 3 sets of hummingbirds. Because again, there is no earthly way I'm going to get it right on the first time ever. Except for this time I actually did. I actually liked the way that the 3 of them turned out coloring wise, with some edits. But for the most part, I never like the way it turns out. So this is my little bin of Copic markers. That is every Copic marker I own. I don't own a whole ton, but I really love the ones that I have. I've been really strategic about the ones that I buy, which sets I buy, which individual markers I buy. And I think right now, the only ones I'm missing that I'm really, really wanting, I do not have a good combination for pinks. So if anybody has a really good light pink combo, please leave it in the comments below. And I also don't have any of the cool grays. I have toner grays and warm grays, but I don't have cool grays or neutral grays. So right now I'm just picking out all of my blues and greens, those sets, because hummingbirds are blue and green. I know that they move so quickly, sometimes it's hard to tell. But if you look up a picture of a hummingbird, they are blue and green and black. So I made myself some space, and I'm going to start coloring. I have sped this up because nobody wants to sit here and watch me Copic color forever. I am not an expert in Copic coloring. Again, this is my hobby. This is something I do for fun, right? So I am not the world's best Copic colorer. I'm not good about where are shadows, where is the light. That's not something I'm good about. So I often color in the format where the perimeter is darker and there's some amount of light in the middle. So I attempted to do the cool thing where you put the caps at the top and then you can see what colors I'm using. That proved difficult, and you'll see here in a second. I kept getting them out of frame. So I'll have all of the colors I used for these listed on my blog. But it was really a set of blue greens, 2 sets of blues, and 1 set of green. I only own 2 green markers. You'll see here I'm doing tip to tip because I think one of them is G14 and the next one's G17, and I don't even know if there's a color in between those 2, but it just takes a little bit of effort for them to blend. So that's what I do a lot when I only have 2 colors, because a lot of my blending sets I only have 2 colors. So I'll kind of do tip to tip for that medium color, if that makes sense. So here I'm wondering what color I'm coloring that last hummingbird on the top, because I didn't want them all to be just blue and green, even though that's the way they are. So I just chose a darker set of blues for this middle hummingbird, and it's actually the one that I liked the best. I loved the way that this coloring turned out, and I don't often love the way that my coloring turns out. So that was very exciting for me. And so I really, really liked this one. Let me know in the comments down below also when you leave your comment for which pink blending set you like. And if you watch the end, you might leave a different comment altogether, but we'll get to that in a minute. But let me know if you want the coloring closer next time. I'm kind of a little bit far away. Also, please excuse my nasty old sweatshirt. It's a college sweatshirt that I very much love, but it has seen better days. I realize I'm coming up on, it was 10 years ago that I was a freshman in college. So a lot of my old college clothes and sweaters and things like that are a little bit ratty, but that's when they get comfortable. And I was just sitting in my house, you know, I'm not going places in it, but hey. So I colored that last hummingbird the way that I colored the first, and now I am taking a colorless blender and fixing my little mistakes. I find it easiest, I know people use white gel pens. I usually find it easiest just to take the Copic colorless blender and fix my mistakes that way. I'm now going to take the matching dies for these little hummingbirds and cut them out with their coordinating dies. I will save this sheet because obviously there's still 6 more hummingbirds on there. I will just save this. And I often keep things around that aren't colored that I've just stamped out because, you know, I'm sure I'm not the only person. I sit in front of the TV and just color. You know, I like to do that just as a hobby, and it helps me prepare for some cards. So setting these dies, stealing the little Post-it stickies off my Big Shot, and I'm going to run this through my die cutting machine, and just like magic, they come out all die cut. This never gets old. So really, really, like I said, I really was pleased with the way that these turned out. So, yep, one just fell out. So, going to pop these out and get set to do the card, to make my final card, bring it all together. So, I've got that front panel there on the left. I've got my stamps and the little hummingbirds. So, I decide that, you know, I kind of look to see where I want to place the hummingbirds and decide that I really do need to stamp down that sentiment first. But first, I just scored the card base. So for card bases, I used 110-pound Neenah. I like the weight of it. I think it holds up nicely in the mail, keeps it sturdy. This is a old Martha Stewart craft scoring board and a Teflon bone folder. Much like the Misty, the Teflon bone folder is a crafty investment, but well worth it. So here I'm just stamping on the back of my card base my little personalized stamp. I got this made from Bossy Jossie. I highly recommend her. She has the most wonderful customer service and get you your customized stamp really quickly. To stamp this, I'm using Gina K Turquoise Sea. I am obsessed with the Gina K inks. And if you have never tried them, it is a treat and a delight because they work so nicely on the first try. And I've had ink pads that, you know, you stamp a solid image and it's all beady. The ink just like beads and pools up on it. It drives me bananas. So very, very pleased with these inks, and I now have an embarrassing lot of them, but they're the ones I use most often. So I'm using that many thanks sentiment on the front, using my Misty, because or else it will never be straight, people. People would look at my crooked cards and it'd be very embarrassing. So using that same ink pad, Gina K Turquoise Sea. Gina K, she gets me. Love this ink. And again, I stamp it twice because it's never going to be perfect on the first try. So the Misty saves my butt all the time on my crafts. There'd be a lot of mistakes without it, let me tell you. So now we're getting set to bring it all together, get this card made. Putting back that stamp. putting it away in its little organizer. What did we all do with before these pouches? I do not know. Kept the stamps in their original packaging, which is much like the packaging we all buy to put them in. That's all right, though. So I have got my little hummingbirds. I'm going to place them. Obviously, I want to place the two with the green heads and feathers on kind of opposite sides of each other. I want to put that all blue one between them, if that makes sense. And again, looking for that triangle look that everyone tells us is pleasing for the eye and symmetry. I think if I was to recolor these, I might color the body of one of them green and the head and the feathers blue. And then they would actually be three different. So here I'm taking some Copic Express It foam tape. I just have a little bit of this left, so I'm trying to use it up. I prefer the Scotch tape, honestly, but I had this and I'm trying to use it up. So I'm using this to give some dimension to my card because at this point I've decided that I'm going to tape down that front panel flat. So popping up these little hummingbirds gives it dimension, obviously on top of the dimension that it has from the embossing folder. So I'm just going to put these on, and then it looks like there's hummingbirds on some lovely roses, which is probably something that they would like. So I am using score tape, which is really strong double-sided tape that I frequently use to adhere card panels to the braces because, quite honestly, they'd probably unstick through the mail. Knowing me, I wouldn't put enough adhesive on. So I like using the score tape for this purpose. So peeling off these little backings, I know people have a hard time with them. It's worth it, people. It sticks very nicely. So just peeling these off, and then I will put the card front on top of my base, just square on because there's no margin around the edges. So just making sure that's all lined up nicely. Now I'm thinking to myself, there's no glitter, there's no sparkle, so I pulled out some sequins. So these are Pretty Pink Posh sequins. I'll leave the exact set that they are down below. So I am using some collage medium. This is the cool thing. Jennifer McGuire is using this now, so I bought some. Using those to stick them on, again, that triangle pattern. And using a jewel picker, realizing I don't have enough glue, and using a little jewel picker to put them on. And now I'm realizing, I wish there was some on the card front. So I had two more on. I like to add things in odd numbers. I don't like even numbered things because once I took a cake decorating class and they told me never put, like if you're going to make a cake, don't put 4 flowers on it, put 5. So it's just stuck with me. I have to put odd numbers on things. So now I'm taking a little scrap trash and some Nuvo. This is the Onyx Black drops, Nuvo drops, and I'm just putting the tiniest bit on their eyes. The tiniest bit. Always for black, I squirt them off on some garbage to the side. So that was just some packaging that I had just to make sure that I don't glob it everywhere. And that is the card for today. I really liked using this set. I waited forever for it to come back in stock, as I'm sure most of you have, because it is seemingly always sold out because so many people are using this card set these days. So in these photos, you can really see that embossing folder. So I have a little giveaway for all of you in the spirit of Valentine's Day, sharing the love. I have ordered an extra Pretty Pink Posh Hummingbird Thanks stamp set that I want to send to one of you. Also, I ordered an extra sentiment set. I love this set from Pretty Pink Posh. It has the most wonderful greetings. All occasions. You can use it for everything. So all of the details to enter the giveaway will be down below in the description box, but you need to be a subscriber of my channel and leave me a comment letting me know what kind of card videos that you like to watch. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this video. And like I said, be a subscriber and enter to win the giveaway. Thank you so much.